It's time for the Maximum PC No BS podcast, episode number 211 for the week of September 24th, 2013. On today's fully packed show, we'll be tackling all the latest hardware news, including what happened at the Intel Developers Forum, the rollout of Ivy Bridge E for Intel platforms, Microsoft's all-new Surface 2, AMD takes on NVIDIA's GK110, and Valve Software wades into the console war with its very own SteamOS. We've got a lot to tackle today, so sit on back and enjoy the ride. Thanks for coming with us on this episode of the No BS podcast. All right, what's up, everybody? Thanks for listening. It's been a little bit of a gap between this show and the last one. We took a little bit of a mini break because we had interns switching over and we were busy. Our schedules just got all kind of screwed up for a while, so we did miss like a 1 week period, I believe. So there was a little bit of a gap, but we're back today. Everyone's here. So please welcome Associate Editor Tom McNamara.
Good afternoon and or evening.
Deputy Editor Gordon Ma-Ung.
Hello.
And also Editor-in-Chief Catherine Stevenson.
Hi.
Jimmy Thang is not with us. He's at a he's at the Hawaii event with AMD, so he's scoping out the new hardware we'll talk about in a little bit. So very very brave of him to head to Hawaii for a couple days.
Yeah, he's probably not going to come back for another 3-4 weeks.
Yeah, appreciate that.
It's pretty nice out there.
So we have a lot of topics to talk about today. Super packed podcast. We're going to get right into it. So let's start off with what we were originally going to talk about. So we've actually been developing this topic list for the last couple of weeks, sort of thinking about things to talk about. So number one on our list is the Intel Developers Forum. This just took place here in San Francisco. Gordon was on hand. It's kind of like Intel's chance to show everyone the future and sort of tell everyone what they're really trying to push now. So Gordon was there. Tell us what you think.
Well, there's a lot of hardware from Intel. Obviously, Ivy Bridge E, which we'll talk about as well, because that actually officially came out at IDF, although you wouldn't have known that. There's also Intel's brand new Bay Trail CPU, finally, which supposedly competes with ARM in tablets. We actually got a chance to benchmark that down at Intel headquarters. It's on our website. Actually, it's not on the website. It's in the magazine. And there's also a new CPU that Intel's announced called Quark, which is, I understand it, I think it will compete with ARM embedded processors. Really small, very low power, goes into whatever, smartwatches, whatever people want to call it. And then, honestly, there was USB 3.1, there was Thunderbolt 2, there was Haswell E, which I saw and took a picture of at IDF. But honestly, the big news probably at IDF for desktop PC and enthusiast PC is there actually was no presence almost of the desktop PC or enthusiast PCs.
Yeah, that was a lot of the sites wrote their takeaways saying this is this is Intel giving up on the PC.
Right. I mean, I disagree with that. This has actually been happening for the last couple of years. You'd go to IDF, and usually you'd get some new fan spec, or there'd be a new there's just very. Holy smokes.
That's close.
Yeah, that's good.
Continue.
I'm all right.
So, you go to IDF, and basically, for people who don't know, and a lot of course, the fanboys will disagree with this on the other side of the aisle, but Intel very much drives the PC industry. A lot of the specs, everything comes out at IDF. It's where it's, thousands of developers, super nerdy stuff, and it basically drives the entire PC industry. And there really wasn't much there, and there wasn't much last year either, and probably the year before for desktop PCs and enthusiast PCs.
I think they've slowed their momentum because, well, for one, AMD's FX didn't turn out to be the threat that I think they thought it would be, or that they feared it would be, and so they don't have as much competition as they thought they were going to have in that space.
Well, and I think also realistically, everybody agrees. And we've talked about it on this podcast many times before, but Intel's problem is ARM, right? And as I've said before, if Intel came out of the IDF and said, inside the box of every, Haswell processor, you will get a brand new $200 bill, everybody would complain, how come you don't have a new mobile processor, right?
Yeah, everybody wants to have a mobile thing going on now.
And that's the only thing Wall Street cares about, which is a huge deal. to Intel.
Right. So it's more about messaging than that they're giving up on the PC. It's that this is where they really need people to be paying attention to them, is
Right.
that they're a threat in the mobile
Yeah,
space.
people really have to believe that Intel has an answer to ARM, right?
Right.
And that's why they concentrate on tablets, they concentrate on this new Bay Trail processor, and they don't talk about desktop stuff because, frankly, desktops are still alive and well, doing fine, although, there's some drop-off in that very low end.
And they own it.
And they own it, so, why worry about that when they really need to worry about ARM right now?
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I feel like this is sort of analogous to the console war thing. There's that picture of like the the PC guys are all in a circle, and then in the middle of the circle are the two things fighting. That we're not really part of their group, but we're kind of like watching them fight sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's similar. Like we're all somewhat invested in the in the mobile race in the way that we want mobile stuff, our own mobile stuff, to be fast. But does anyone here have it like? But no one here no one here has a mobile device with Intel inside of it.
No, and that's the thing is the day zero, the day before IDF started, they trucked maybe 30 to 40 journalists from all over the planet down to Intel headquarters, and we all got to play with these basically reference tablet designs with Bay Trail processors, which will be called Atom in tablets. There will
no plans to change the name there.
no plans at all, and there will be Pentium and Celeron versions in desktop using the same chip.
It's very. I mean, it would be a. It's just disappointing to see this entire IDF kind of come, and there were some definitely hardcore PC stuff there, but to have the actual sole focus of the entire thing to be mobile, I mean, it's just like that hurts, man.
But I know it hurts, but I mean that's where the money is right now, right? At least that's where it seems like the money is. That's where everybody sees the future. I mean, we obviously disagree with that, but
Yeah, I'm not concerned. AMD seems to be pushing forward in the desktop, as we'll hear about tomorrow in Hawaii.
GPUs, yeah, CPU is relatively pretty unknown.
right. But so let's actually talk about Bay Trail. So we talked a little bit about it last time. We actually got hands-on, got to test. Of course, everything was mostly Android. I had a choice between a Windows 8.1 tablet and a Android tablet. I was really more interested in testing the Android version because, for the most part, Intel pretty much has mobile locked up, right? I'm not really too concerned about Windows 8.1. It's either AMD or it's Intel. AMD actually does have some pretty good tablet kind of focused parts coming out, but I really want to see how Bay Trail did against ARM. So I did a bunch of benchmarks on the Bay Trail tablet, and then I compared it to some numbers from the Nexus 7, the original Mark 1 as I'm calling it, and the newer Mark 2, as well as NVIDIA's Shield. And actually, in performance, of course, the question is, does anybody even care about tablet performance? But in performance, Bay Trail pretty much mops up the floor with the tablet, right? It's pretty much the Nexus 2 has a Snapdragon S4 Pro. I guess they're calling it actually a Snapdragon 600, some people are saying. The Mark 1 had a Tegra 3, and then, of course, the Shield has Tegra 4. The Bay Trail pretty much mops the floor with the Qualcomm and the Tegra 3 part, but against Tegra 4, it's actually interesting. Tegra 4 is actually faster, in which I really didn't expect. But I suppose you could also argue that Tegra 4 is a gaming device. It's not passively cooled. It has a fan inside, and it has two pretty big batteries in it.
Right.
So and a smaller screen, so they really can run probably a lot higher clock. So I think we'll have to see Tegra 4's performance against Bay Trail when it's actually in a tablet.
Right.
And the Intel, the Atom can also do x86, right? Whereas the others cannot.
Right, yeah. The Atom is the only x86 part there. And it, pretty much mops the floor with the original Tegra 3, of course. I don't have these in front of us that we could show the readers, but it's no contest. Bay Trail is much faster.
Did you test battery life?
No, there's really no way to test battery life. And although I will say, Intel, of course, they had their instrumented tablets where they have a tablet and they basically have figured out where all the power comes out on these tablets, and they've hooked up these really high-end scopes to them. And running Windows 8.1 and Cinebench 11.5, a quad-core Bay Trail was pulling down about 2.6 watts, which is really good. I mean, there's a lot of performance, and 2.6 watts. And Intel would argue that it's that the comparable ARM parts actually are consuming a lot more power than that because they don't really run at these high clocks all the time. So, I mean, we'll have to see once we finally get the first Bay Trail tablets in. I don't know if we can even talk about those. I know Catherine has talked to some OEMs about Bay Trail tablets.
Right.
So Windows 8.1 as well as Android based. So
Yeah, they're coming. That's
so
for sure.
of course the sad thing is now, of course, we've been talking nothing about mobile. This
Yeah.
whole time after
Right.
talking about.
But Android and x86 is a really interesting combination that we haven't seen yet.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I honestly think that what Bay Trail is Intel's getting into the game. That there's really a ball game now. Everything else before was like, okay, Clover Trail Plus, sort of. But now with Bay Trail, vendors really do have a pretty good choice between x86, Intel, or ARM. So there's a real ball game now. It's not over yet.
Yeah.
Jesus, what the hell's up with these things?
I think we need a bib over here.
Let's just let's segue right into Ivy Bridge E then, because since I was also at the show, and that was kind of the big news in the last couple weeks. That's
Right.
finally came out. We've been waiting for it for a long time. We've been talking about it for months.
Yeah,
It's finally here.
right. And it is what it is. It is essentially Ivy Bridge E, which came out 17 months ago now, right? It's a pretty damn long time ago. So this is like, I think as I wrote in our feature, it's kind of like looking at the 2011 car and being really excited while it's sitting next to the 2013 car. So I don't know who's excited about a 37.7K next to a 47.7K, but Ivy Bridge is very much like that. Although it is a de facto performance winner. I would not at this point buy an LGA 2011 Sandy Bridge E when I could buy an Ivy Bridge E. There's just no point. It's just crazy to do that.
They cost about the same, but you get 5-10% more performance.
Yeah, so definitely 10% more performance. It's probably not going to overclock quite as high from what I've heard from some board vendors.
It's also supposed to have much less power consumption, right?
Yeah, I mean, it does significantly less power, but I think it's a little odd because, I mean, you're putting this in a box with 2 video cards, 32 gigs of RAMs, 2 SSDs, and 3 hard drives. I mean, whoopee, you save 50 watts. It's a little silly there.
Well, it puts less pressure on the air cooler or the water cooler.
Just really quick for people that aren't sure. So Sandy Bridge E came out almost a year and a half ago. That's socket 2011.
It's a long
Then
time
they
ago.
transferred to socket 1155.
Well, no, remember Intel has a big boy socket, 1366. Then they had their normal consumer socket 1156. 1366 was replaced by LGA 2011. 1156 was replaced by 1155, and of course Haswell replaces 1155 with 1150. Ivy Bridge E fits in the exact same socket as Sandy Bridge E.
They're on parallel tracks. You have 1366 to 2011,
Right.
and you have 1155 to 1150.
So the big question is, do you go with the Ivy Bridge E or do you go with Haswell?
Right, and frankly, I think for probably, for our readers, probably 80%, 85% of readers who don't really need access to 6 cores or more, because there are Xeon variants with more cores. You can only run those in LGA 2011, the big boy socket, right? If you don't need 64 gigs of RAM, for the most part, Haswell gives you everything you need. For a regular person, it has a more modern chipset. You get all 6 out of 6 ports. You get integrated USB support in the South Bridge. You still do not get that in LGA 2011.
And you also get an IGP. The built-in graphics is a nice fallback in case something happens to your video card or.
Tom O's has that scenario. I don't agree with it.
I like having
worst case.
For troubleshooting.
Backup. Got to go to my backup integrated.
I think it's helpful.
It seems weird though. Like, I mean, if you have a Sandy Bridge E, you're not going to go out and you're not going to upgrade to Ivy Bridge E. There's no way.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you're building a brand new system, you wouldn't start with LG. You wouldn't start with this.
Well, no.
The only exception I would make was that there's the quad core 2011, the 3820, and then if you want a hex core, then you'd go with the Ivy Bridge E.
Right. So if you bought a 3820 originally, Sandy Bridge E, and you wanted to move to 6 cores, right, Ivy Bridge E, or again, Josh, if you need a lot of cores, you're doing a lot of media encoding, you're doing 3D rendering, something that really pushes 12 threads, it pays for itself. Right, it's a lot faster. Those micro towers I just did a roundup of, all of those guys, I think that even the 4.7 gigahertz Haswell was probably like slower than our base box with a Sandy Bridge E 6 core, 38 what is it, 630K?
Yeah, additional cores, much higher memory bandwidth as well.
Right. So there are some reasons to do it, but you really, really have to know. Do you need it? Are you doing work? Are you doing it professionally? Then it's worth it. But you're handcuffed. You're only getting 2 SATA 6 ports, which kind of sucks, right? There's no Thunderbolt support, which, although that's changing. That's actually something I learned at IDF. That will change.
And there's no official USB 3 support as well.
The PCH still does not have USB 3. So there's a lot of negatives associated with that. But, honestly, if you're a 3D renderer, 3D modeler,
there's no USB 3.
There's no official
2011
native support. It's all third party.
Right. My God, the chipset's like 3 years old now. I don't know how it is, but
There were some pretty sweet 2011 boards announced though when Ivy Bridge E came out. I know EVGA had one, ASUS has one. Like they're rolling out these like premium,
Right. Yeah, there's still, if you're going to run 4-way SLI, right? There are some very high end applications for it, but again, for probably 80% of people, maybe even 90%, they really don't need it. Haswell does everything you need. But for those people who do need it, and it does pay for itself. And again, you can take a 2011 board, you can get a professional 2011 board, and you can drop in an 8-core, probably 12-core Xeon into it, right?
Yeah.
Overall, so what? I mean, we're kind of like, basically.
Yeah. And that's Ivy Bridge.
All this build up, and we're like,
there was a build up. I mean, but again, I think that's kind of expectations. Ivy Bridge, when it launched, didn't blow Sandy Bridge out of the water, right? Ivy Bridge was like, yeah, it's a nice upgrade. You'd be crazy to go out and buy a new Sandy Bridge processor when you could buy Ivy Bridge.
Yeah,
so.
I upgraded from Nehalem to Ivy Bridge, and it was pretty impressive.
Right, so 2 generations,
Yeah.
It's a good jump. If you're a 1366, you need another big boy socket. Makes sense.
So then after Ivy Bridge E, so now this year we've had Haswell, and now we've had Ivy Bridge E. So our next update will be probably mid next year, Haswell E.
Right, yeah. So Haswell E, I don't know about mid. I'm going to guess, of course, after Dream Machine, which I think, this is always our constant complaint. Haswell E will launch end of next year. Again, Xeon variant of Haswell cores. Looks like there will be finally an official 8-core consumer processors with Haswell E. And there's also talk of it being DDR4 and a new chipset. But there is some confusion because the socket is named LGA 2011-3, which apparently is incompatible with LGA 2011. I talked to some board vendors and OEMs down there, and they were saying, yeah, they think it's an engineering kind of pick name that'll probably change when it launches, because you can't imagine like going out to a store, buying a brand new Haswell E, and then going, oh, I can buy a 2011 board, and you buying an older
It'll probably like
board doesn't work with it.
LGA 2013 or something.
I saw that zombie story about Broadwell not coming to desktop was animated this week also.
Yeah,
it made the rounds again.
It keeps coming. I think what it just tells you, because obviously there's a lot of leaks. A lot of these leaks are generated out of Taiwan, China. I don't think anybody really knows, and honestly, I don't even think Intel knows, because everything I'm reading is like, so for people who don't know the backstory, so we have Haswell now. There will be a new version of it. So there will be another version of it called Broadwell, which, as we understand it, will only be it's going to come in sockets. It's going to be in BGA only. It will not come in sockets. So it's going to be all-in-ones, NUCs, laptops, that kind of thing. And a lot of people thought was like, oh, well, this is yet another sign it's the end of the PC because there's no more sockets. That means there's no more. And of course, it's not true, because Intel's like, yeah, we're just slowing things down because there's no competition here. It's not like we really have to worry about AMD. So again, they're concentrating on ARM. So
they've said no, that's not the case. That it won't be.
I mean, there's definitely been
socketed.
stories there, and we've heard, unofficially, that there will be a future socket eventually. And all the leaks say, beyond Broadwell, there will be a chip called Skylake that replaces Haswell for us. That will be a socketed part.
Speaking of, remember how like 2 months ago, PC World, they left the newsstand. Since we're sort of there by ourselves now, maybe we should slow down too, like our cycle.
Do it every other.
Yeah, like every couple. Why are we doing it every month?
Yeah, we
Seriously.
suggest that, right? Like,
What's the point?
Yeah, I mean, why are we killing ourselves?
but yeah, I read that story too, because I have read there would be a Broadwell version, but for Xeons. Although I think the thing is, there's like a leak diagram that they're saying that, Broadwell will not be compatible with Haswell motherboards, but that doesn't really mean Haswell and Broadwell compatibility based on a socket. It's possible that you're going to see these Xeons BGA only for these microservers that still will not be a socketed part, but will be soldered to the motherboard.
Yeah, we should do a feature called the death of the PC and just catalog all this stuff. It's a drumbeat, one after another. Intel getting out of the desktop. Now Broadwell's not coming into LGA, and AMD is abandoning the CPU space, and blah blah blah. It just goes on and on and on and on and on. So
right. I mean, there's a lot of bad information out there.
Right. All right. Well, let's move on to our next topic, which is I guess we'll tackle the Surface 2. Everybody knows what Surface is. Everyone knows Surface didn't do so well the first time out of the gate, and it's interesting because basically this week Microsoft announced the second version of this, all new hardware. Catherine will tell us all about it. People were still pretty I don't know. We'll talk about it after Catherine tells you all about it. But it's pretty interesting to see what they've announced and whether or not it's going to be successful.
Right. Yeah, so both the Surface, so the two new models are the Surface 2 and the Surface Pro 2, and they're follow-ups to the RT and the Surface Pro, respectively. And they're there's definite improvements to both of them. A kickstand that has two adjustments. That was a big complaint, is that you were kind of locked into this one position when you wanted to set the tablet upright. So now there's two positions. Apparently it makes it easier to use the device on a lap, which before it was virtually impossible. The Surface Pro 2 will have a Haswell processor. Storage is up as high as 512 gigabytes, if that's your preference. It's got better speakers. It
has like a battery integrated into the cover, doesn't it?
Right. There is a charging cover, and of course all those things are additional accessories, but there's a charging cover. There's a dock now that can make it even more simulate a laptop. There's some sort of media keyboard type of thing with all kinds of controls if you're into music, and then there's your soft cover, your regular keyboard. There's just an array of accessories. Let's see what else.
It almost sounds like how Microsoft should have launched it in the first place.
Well, they couldn't wait for Haswell. I mean, they would have waited. Actually, they probably wish they waited for Haswell. It's nobody bought the damn thing anyway in the first place. So I was we should have waited for the Haswell version.
Yeah.
Right. And I guess the interesting thing about it is that for all those improvements, they all sound welcome, and they should make it a much better product. But the prices for both of these continue to be on the high side, and that's really that's where I think this product faces its biggest challenge. The Surface Pro 2 is going to start at $900, and the Surface 2, so the RT version, is going to start at $450. And that doesn't include, so then you're shelling out an additional $130 or whatever for the keyboard. So kind of they're up there in price, and it really makes people weigh the benefits of the Surface compared to a laptop when you're talking about the Pro, or when you're talking about this the RT version. There's all these cheaper tablets. So
I really can't see the average person just going into the store and wanting to buy a Surface, especially an RT. RT is going to die.
I don't know. Well, at least RT, you get a copy of Office with it.
Office is its big feather in its cap.
That's Microsoft's weird. I mean, I can't say I'm right. I can't say that they're wrong. We'll see. But it just seems odd to put all your hopes onto this Office suite where it's like that, and they're trying to split the difference here, saying, well, it's a tablet that can be used for production or blah blah blah, and it's just like I don't think people really want to do actually create content with a tablet. Gordon's big argument about PC data is like, oh yeah, great, edit video on your tablet. You can't do that, and so people aren't really expecting to do that, nor do I don't think they really want to do that.
It seems like they're trying to compete with the iPad, but what they seem to be overlooking is that the sales of the iPad were absolutely gutted by the iPad Mini, primarily because the iPad Mini cost like a half as much.
Actually, that's another good point, is that the RT is still this big 10-inch version, and the trend sort of seems to be going to a smaller form factor. And
Right.
there may be a smaller Surface coming, but right now this is what we have, and it all raises questions about desirability.
Yeah, it's just so funny because don't you remember originally when the iPad came out and people were like, yeah, I don't need my laptop. I don't have to carry around my 4-pound laptop anymore. Now I can carry around this 1.5-pound tablet, right? It's so much lighter. I don't even know it's there. And then it turned into, oh man, these iPad minis and these small Android, they're so much lighter. I don't have to, that stupid iPad, it weighs too much. I can't carry it. Now it's like, oh, it's like 7-inch. 7 inch is perfect. It's I can bring it with me everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just funny. Like I thought the great thing about the iPad, it was so awesomely light or something, but
You're the one who was saying it was too heavy, Gordon.
yeah, I know. I agree. I think it was too heavy.
And when you're like sitting there holding it for a long period of time, the way you hold a tablet, it is too heavy.
Yeah.
I know. My point, Josh, because you're obviously talking about because Chris was here with the Shield, and Chris is like, it's too heavy.
I'm not even talking about
the
that
weight
at
is
all.
perfect.
Well, I think what the sales of the iPad Mini demonstrated is that people, at least for now, are not willing or interested in shelling out $1,000-ish for a tablet. They perceive it as an inexpensive device to complement what they're doing already.
Right. Tom's exactly right, and that's why the Android has had such major success because they're so cheap. People just want to have something small and like relatively disposable that they can just sort of browse the web, send email, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I think obviously Microsoft is gambling on this, a philosophical point that people actually will be sold on the idea of having two devices in one.
Right. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what everybody seems to be banking on, but I'm not so sure it makes sense because I tried to use the Surface Pro, and I have a really hard time using it over a laptop.
The market appears to disagree with their assessment.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to pull the Apple thing where you just show the market what it needs, and it'll just whatever.
Right.
And like they also, I saw someone else commenting too. Then they're trying to be like, well, Apple charges a lot of money for their products too, so we can do this. And it's just like, yeah, well, Apple's kind of trained their customers to pay a ton of money for stuff. Microsoft products are relatively affordable. Windows PCs, especially notebooks and even whatever the cheap Dells and HPs, they're all like $300, $400. They're pretty cheap.
Right.
And like for those of us who live in the world of maximum PC, we don't really see that. We see $6,000. There's actually a Digital Storm Eventum in the photo area right now.
You've seen those things?
Holy
Like,
shit.
huge.
Ridiculous.
It is like it's as tall as you'd expect from a normal case, but the length of it is it's almost like it's a 900D plus another probably like 9 inches. It's fucking huge.
Yeah, it doesn't. When we got the first one a couple of years ago, it didn't even fit on the bench. It was so big.
Gordon, he actually thinks that his table he uses for photography might not be big enough. I mean, it is. Anyways, in the world we live in, we don't see these cheap. We don't see the normal commoditized PC that often. But the actual reality is, Windows PCs are the reason that they're so popular and so prolific. Is they're just they're easy to use, but they're affordable.
Right.
Macs are not affordable. So, anyways, Microsoft is sort of taking the exact opposite approach. People seem to think that they should have take, and somehow for some reason Microsoft is just like, no, this is going to be really expensive, really premium, and it's just like, you think you're going to get market share with that, really?
And what's interesting is that they're staying the course,
Yeah.
Well,
Like
yeah.
they took a $900 million write-down on unsold inventory for the first generation of Surface, and they responded by making a new version that really isn't that just does a few nips and tucks here and there.
Well, but they probably already put the majority of the R&D into the first version. The second version isn't really you don't have to do it all over again. But I mean, how much? I know it's bad. It doesn't look good. But what would happen if they just said, you know what, we give up. It's been 12 months. We give up. Throw it all away. I mean, come on.
It's going to happen in the phone market probably.
Oh, that's why they just bought Nokia for whatever X billion dollars.
Yeah, everyone else, and whatever people were saying about that deal was that Nokia was on the verge of complete failure also.
Well, Microsoft bought the phone division for, was it $7.2 billion? But apparently, from what I'm reading, the rest of Nokia is actually doing quite fine now because it jettisoned the phone division, which was apparently just bleeding money.
Yeah, I mean, most people that I know that are watching this were like, "Oh, Microsoft's trying to buy Nokia's phone business." I mean, like, that'd be like trying to buy Apple's gaming business.
Nokia also apparently kept the patents for the phones.
I mean, we'll see. It would obviously be awesome if there was these three big competitors, but time has shown that usually doesn't happen in these big markets. Usually, it comes down to two big competitors. So obviously, Windows was way behind.
Yeah.
So whether or not they can catch up or not, I mean, shit.
Well, I guess honestly, I think the big question is there room left for Apple and Microsoft? Because internationally, Android has rolled over iOS. Rolled over. It's not like non-existent overseas practically, right?
Yeah, it's
like 10%. It's under like single digits.
They were supposed to be ready. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tom.
It's still roughly 50-50 in the U.S. and
it's like 40% for iOS, I think, right?
It's like 43 and like 40. It's like they're both between the two of them.
And then you add up BlackBerry and Microsoft, Symbian, and one of the leftovers to
pretty
make
bad.
up the last 8% or something.
Yeah,
it's pretty bad.
But it's only in the U.S. But internationally.
That's what's funny
iOS
is Apple
has been rolled over.
Apple was supposed to correct that with their iPhone C, and then speaking of charging
people
too much,
thought they would like charge like $50 for the phone, $100, or give it away free with a contract.
We're talking about mobile again.
Yeah, well, we're talking about Apple.
God damn it!
Well, that's the unfortunate thing, right? I mean, that's what drives the headlines. That's why Intel has to worry. That's why they've got to do mobile. That's why Microsoft bought Nokia. That's why they're doing an ARM version.
Right.
They have to make bets that the world is going to go mobile. I personally think it's bullshit. I don't see how it's possible.
I think it's going to become like an extension of our
Tom believes in
overall computing thing.
I don't really have any interest in tying all my devices together either. I mean, like I can see how it works in certain environments, but I just bought a Nexus 7. I've got a 10-inch iPad also, and I just use it for like listening to I play music on it when I'm not at home, so my cats don't get bored. I play I browse the web. I just do very basic stuff on my tablet. I paid $75 for my Nexus 7.
Yeah, you watch
awesome.
You watch YouTube videos. You listen to music.
Yeah, I don't need Office and all this.
But don't you find that wouldn't it be nice if the apps that you already bought for your iPad were available to you on the Nexus? I mean, you do there is a convenience to tying them all together.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. I understand that. I'm just saying that for a tablet environment, I don't really need Office and the ability to be productive.
Right.
So
right.
it's I mean, Microsoft's making a gamble, and that's how companies either win or lose in this thing is they take risks, and sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. Most of our readers on Facebook were actually they hate Windows 8 already. So all you have to hear is the fact that it has Windows 8 on it, and they're like,
yeah, that didn't help, right? Windows 8 did not help things.
Yeah, that's what's weird. Windows 8 is kind of like the albatross on the neck of all these machines,
Right.
And 8.1's coming out pretty soon, and we'll talk about that probably on our next topics. I guess it's coming out October, I believe. $120
for what?
For the normal version, $200 for the Pro version.
$200 for that full retail?
That's
full retail.
That's for a full version, not
full
just
retail.
the upgrade version, right?
Upgrade version is free. If you have Windows 8, it's free.
Right.
Right.
But how much was Windows 8? I mean, isn't that comparable to what Windows 8?
No, it just seems like I guess my point is that with the Surface 2, same thing is they go, all right, that thing we had before, we fucked that up. Sorry about that. Here's the new one, right? This is exactly analogous. And then they go, all right, how much money? And then they're like, here's the price, and you're like, wow, that seems at some point you feel like they're just gonna go, fine. We just want everyone to have this thing for $20. Take it, please.
No, I don't think it's. I mean, we all have our issues with Windows 8, but it's actually doing okay in sales, I think, right? It's not Windows 7, but I mean, considering that it's the Windows Vista.
Well, people are saying that people are saying it's selling because people don't have the other option. You
right.
can't. I mean, people are still buying PCs.
Sure.
Windows 8 is on those PCs, therefore Windows 8 is selling. It's not because people want Windows 8.
Yeah, but I also think people are are getting used to it now, whereas before it was like a major shock and very disorienting.
I think they're figuring out that they don't have to use the modern interface.
Right.
You know, they can just skip right through the desktop. And 8.1, I think, will allow you to boot straight to the desktop mode.
And only every now and then when you open something and it like
when you
bumps
open
you
a
into
PDF or an image file.
And then you're like, oh my God, how do I get out?
Yeah.
They've got to turn it around with 9. I mean, they really do have to realize that, you got to give to Microsoft. They went from Vista, which was like, oh my God, to to Windows 7, which is like, whoa. That was like, oh, this is a major comeback. Windows 7 was a major comeback, right?
Yeah, big time. And that I tell you, I was actually at a press and show this week for this some stuff by like a storage company. And after they were showing me a demo of it, and on the storage device there was a whole bunch of like either PDF files or JPEGs or something like that. And I double clicked on one just to see what would happen. And I wanted to see how it would open off of the storage device, not because I wanted to see how it would open in Windows. And sure enough, they had Windows 8 installed. So the next thing you know is you get this full screen, like orange, color full screen, and it opens up some sort of weird, it's like the image viewer thing that's built into Windows 8. And like I looked at the press guy, and he just kind of rolled his eyes at me, like, oh God. and then it was like, from there was an arrow at the top left corner which we pressed to go back. Now we're at that weird like film strip thing, the bottom, with that big Ferris wheel in the big Ferris wheel in the background and stuff. We're just like, what the fuck? Like seriously. So I mean, you pressed Alt F4. That's like the key to getting out of any of those situations, But
you can also press the Windows key to toggle out of that. I've discovered.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you guys about that one Windows Evangelist blog post where the guy? It was like this. It was written by Windows Evangelist, and it's called. Let me read this to you. I have it right here. It's called Windows 8 Boot to Desktop. Maybe the designers were right. And he writes, one of the new features in Windows 8.1 Preview is the much requested option to boot directly to the traditional Windows 7 desktop instead of Windows 8 start screen that features the tiles. In other words, when your computer starts up, after logging in, you see and it shows a desktop instead of being the Windows 8 modern UI. So he says, here's how you get to this, blah, blah, blah. Then he says, this is the end of his blog. When I first heard about this feature, I enabled it on one of my laptops since I use it primarily as a desktop computer connected to a larger monitor. It doesn't have a touch screen, so I figured going to the desktop would save me a step. It turns out that more often than not, once I log in, I hit the Windows key on the keyboard and go to the start screen to launch the apps that I want and then go back to the desktop. Yes, I can pin Office and Visual Studio icons on the taskbar and not go to the start menu, but more often than not, I end up wanting to go to the start screen first. I like the live tile notifications that appear in my favorite apps. So for the way that I use the computer, it works better for me to launch the start screen instead of the desktop, even though I'd even have a touch screen. So then his last sentence says, I'm starting to think the Windows UX designers may have been right all along, and that over time, this option will end up being one of the most requested and least used features in the new release. What do you think?
Well, I'm glad to hear that it's working for somebody.
It's just like, wow.
Well,
our designers, maybe they were right all along. Right. It's just like, really?
Like,
really?
I thought this was totally stupid, but now I'm coming around.
Well,
yeah.
What stuck out to me is he referred to the old desktop as the Windows 7 desktop, and I'm like, actually, it's been around for longer than that. It's been around since like 1995,
Well,
but
like I said, if it makes him happy, it's.
Well, he's getting paid. His job is his job title is Microsoft Technology Evangelist. I don't think they allow you to have your own opinion.
But the sad thing about Windows 8 is like, everybody's bagging on Metro, but the actual OS itself, everything underneath Metro is still pretty damn awesome.
It's very solid. It doesn't really crash or lock up or give you blue screens.
It's hard to go back to Windows 7 after using Windows 8, frankly, except for Metro. I mean, everything outside of Metro, it's really tough to go back to Windows 7 sometimes.
It's when you shut down the computer, it gets kind of awkward.
I think I remember reading somewhere that the fact that they put the start button back in Windows 8.1, but didn't actually let you have a start menu is their way of just basically telling their users, like, we hear you what you're saying, but we're not gonna fucking listen to you. We hear you.
Isn't that what Catherine and I said? That's what we were. And you were what?
They feel our pain.
Well, I'm not saying that's my thought. It's just like that's one interpretation of them going halfway into that measure is saying, all right.
No, that I explained to you what that is. That is so the start button in Windows 8.1 is that scene, right? From a True Romance, right? Christian Slater goes in. He wants to somehow pay off the pimp to get his hooker girlfriend out from under the thumb of the pimp, right?
We've all been there.
right? So he puts down the envelope and gives it to, what the hell's that guy's name? I forget. It was Gary Oldman, right?
Oldman, yeah.
He gives Gary Oldman the envelope. He says, that's how much I'm going to pay you to get back, Alabama. And Gary Oldman opens up the envelope, and it's fucking empty. So that is Microsoft's telling you, go fuck yourself. We're sticking with Metro. Right?
Not very good. I mean, that's not. I think most people are not very appreciative of Microsoft efforts on that behalf. It's not very cool.
It's really too bad. I mean, it does seem like they should have just put the start menu back, let you run Metro when you're on a tablet. And then, there are there are times when Metro is fine if you have a tablet or a touchscreen, right? But
I don't really see the utility of the button as it doesn't seem that much different from.
It's stupid.
It feels like veiled hostility, to be honest.
That's what I'm saying. It's just like Christian Slater giving Gary Goldman that envelope.
I mean, do they really think people are stupid enough to think like, oh, okay, at least they're trying?
I need a button on my screen that approximates a button.
I know for a lot of people, I mean, the default place when you're using Windows Desktop, and we need to move on here in 1 second. The default place for people using Windows Desktop is that start button kind of anchors the entire experience. It's a place you can go to just feel kind of safe. It's
right.
Like, you know what I mean? And the fact that it's not there, to a lot of people are just like.
Right.
Trips me out.
So disorienting at first.
And what they're doing is like explicitly tying, letting you know, like, this is your start screen, like this is your start button, like going into the big blocky tile.
We didn't know that before, apparently. I guess. But.
All right, let's transition over to AMD and the GPU wars. Now, this is a pretty interesting topic, but unfortunately, as we're recording this podcast, we do not have all the information we needed to really talk to you about everything. We're 2 days away from 1 day away from the official launch of AMD's new Hawaii GPU. We know it's called Hawaii. Everyone in the world knows it's called Hawaii. The press is in Hawaii right now, getting ready to look at it.
The state.
Yeah, the state. So, what we've done so far is we've been able to piece together some information. So this is basically, I'm not going to go back and recap the entire GPU thing, but basically this year right now is year number 2 of the 28 nanometer process for both NVIDIA and AMD. So NVIDIA spent this year doing version number 2 of its Kepler technology, 28 nanometer. When they did that with the GeForce GTX 700 series. So those launched this summer, and AMD has just sat back and done nothing.
Well, no, I mean, they've come out with like the gigahertz edition of the card, the 7970.
They haven't not launched a second version of their GCN graphics Core Next technology. They've been we've been waiting. Usually the thing is, I guess the context for that statement, Tom, is that typically in the past when one company launches, the other company launches right afterwards.
Right.
They don't sit around.
They've just made some tweaks here and there, but they have come out with the game bundle, so that's cool. But
yeah,
on the hardware front, they haven't really come out with a new wave of stuff.
Yeah, it's been a pretty quiet summer. So and what's weird is NVIDIA didn't even launch an entire product stack. They launched 780, they launched 770, and they launched 760. That's it. So we are like, all right, And anyway, so AMD's Hawaii GPU is coming out tomorrow.
In Hawaii.
We don't know how much it's going to cost, but here's what we know. Here's what we know so far. All right, so this is going to be AMD's response to GK110, which is the GPU used in NVIDIA's GTX Titan as well as GTX 780. It's a massive. It's their flagship GPU. It's huge.
Yeah, this is all cobbled together from like information leaked all over the internet. It's probably the worst kept secret right now in PC hardware.
Yeah, they wouldn't. AMD was reluctant to let us have all the specs ahead of time just because of the way the industry works these days.
It's just fair.
Yeah, so we understand that. It's unfortunate, but that's pretty much how it works. And NVIDIA would never. I mean, I don't think they would ever give us. I mean, they include us on NDAs and stuff like that, but in terms of getting, anyways, it's kind of a side topic. But
so prices.
So we don't know what the price is. All we do know that we're assuming this is the GPU taking on GK110. It's approximately 20% or so bigger than the Tahiti core they used in the last generation flagship card. So it's still not as big as GK110. So
which is the 780 and the Titan.
Yeah. So if you were to line the three up in terms of size, you would have 7970 is not as 7970 is not as large as Hawaii, which is not as large as GK110. And AMD, the reason we know that is because AMD said in an interview that that die is too big. They think it's too big. There's no reason for it. They said that they're going for the best performance per die area available. So, I mean, like, however you want to translate that, we'll see. Rumors coming out so far are that it will be as fast, if not faster than Titan.
Allegedly for less money.
Yeah, allegedly for around $650. Maybe it'll be $700. We don't know the pricing yet. I don't think AMD is going to announce pricing.
Yeah, they might not know yet.
Yeah, so typically what we could probably do with these, what we've seen in the past with these launches is we get the information, and the only thing missing, and usually the information includes specs, names, blah, blah, blah. Like all that information, benchmarks, tests, and at the end, pricing and stuff is to come. They don't know.
Pricing and availability.
Pricing and availability.
Varies by region.
Yeah, so we're gonna wait. So usually they'll say, so tomorrow they'll say available in October, or this quarter, or whatever. They'll probably keep it pretty vague.
Or coming soon.
And then cards will arrive to reviewers
unannounced
in a couple weeks.
Let's show up at your doorstep. Then along with information saying there's an embargo. The embargo is 2 weeks from now or whatever. Everyone goes away and starts testing. This is
numbers leak.
Yeah, same for everyone, Anand and everyone else. And then and then maybe the day before the NDA lifts, maybe a day, we'll get an email from AMD saying, here's the price, here's availability, all the menu, blah blah blah. That's
and here's some new drivers you need to use to retest all the benchmarks.
Right. So you're talking about they'll probably show it tomorrow, and then or by the time you hear this, they would have already shown it. So. Well, so we'll see. It'll be. It's interesting that they're going to take on the GK110. We kind of thought they would kind of leave that up out there, because actually originally AMD said that they weren't going to tackle the $999 price tag.
Yeah, it seemed like they had their hands full in general with doing R&D for two different consoles, at the same time, as well as fighting NVIDIA on the desktop GPU front, and then fighting Intel on the CPU front.
Yeah,
but they seem to be pulling it out.
We'll see. I mean, they have so it's very surprising to find them going after Titan, because we always thought that was kind of the NVIDIA had kind of ace in the hole that AMD really couldn't touch. So if they can actually get close to that performance or beat it with a much smaller die point and a smaller price point, I mean, that'll be good news for everyone, because then number one, the Titan will get cheaper, 780 will get really cheap,
and they might maintain that game bundle as well.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, really, are they going after Titan, or are they really going after 780?
Well, if they can match, theoretically, Titan and 780 actually have the same performance for gaming. I mean, it's really close enough to say call it a wash.
Right.
So theoretically speaking, they're going after both cards.
Well, what I'm really interested to see is if they get the thermals under control, because a lot of these micro towers.
If the die is as small as they are suggesting.
Well, I don't know. I mean, AMD has not had a good track record with thermals in the last 2 generations now.
We have a 7970. We're testing a 7970 gigahertz edition right now, in anticipation of these new cards coming out. So we'll have our numbers ready. And I don't know if you guys heard that card over there in our test area. I mean, it is one of the loudest cards I think I've ever heard in my entire.
The Power Color card.
Power Color, yeah. It's a Vortex. It's a gigahertz edition, and it's just like as soon as you turn on any benchmark, you can hear it spin up. It's so. Right. So theoretically speaking, I know the AMD designed some new coolers for these cards. We sent us a picture of their flagship, the R9 290X, and it does have a completely different shroud on it. It does look the same as before. It looks like a reference design with a little bit of flare added onto the end. It's not even remotely close to being as nice looking as a Titan.
Was it a 8-pin and 6-pin or 2 8s?
8 and 6.
Well, that's a good sign. But I mean, again, I've seen micro towers now. They're running full on Titans. And they're quiet and fast.
Titan's quiet and fast, So
they got to hit that too, not just the performance numbers.
Yeah, so we'll see. So that's like, I guess, the high level. Let me see here. I have some cobbled together specs about this. So the flagship card is called R9. So the flagship series is R9, and then from there's going to be space 3-digit number. So 290X is their flagship. 290, that's Hawaii. 290 right below that, also Hawaii, but it'll be like a slightly neutered version of Hawaii. We don't really quite know. And then from that point below, from what we've heard, it'll all be rebadged GCN2 cards from the previous generation, which is exactly what NVIDIA did before people start rolling their eyes and thinking this is such bullshit. That's exactly what NVIDIA did. this is the second version of their card, second round of this technology. So that's how that works. Is they take their technology, they refine it, they mature it, and they just re-release it at higher clock speeds. And usually they can get a lot more performance out of it now that they've had time to let their process mature. So new silicon in the second year is really unprecedented. But this is because AMD is trying to fight back that Titan. It's pretty tough. So the naming we don't know. All we know right now is R9 290X is going to be the flagship. R9 290 right below it. I'm assuming that right below that will be R9 280. There might even be a 280X. It starts getting really confusing.
You know, it'd be really cool to actually see the overlapping model numbers. I mean, I think AMD and NVIDIA have been around the block so many times that they've actually this would be them looping, because there were 2 series NVIDIA cards. Remember those?
I wonder if the vendors are just going to ignore all this stuff and go with like a 9,000 naming scheme.
So AMD said that since the last series was 7,000 and then they used 8,000 series for OEM, that they didn't have anywhere else to go with this. They could theoretically have named this series 9,000, but after that you're basically at the end. You're completely done. You have to go. You
can add a 0. I mean, what the hell?
So they just said we want to start over again and have give us a nice runway to expand into. So I think they didn't explain to me all the different names, but I think it'll be R9 290, R9 280, R9 270, and then the mid-range will be R7 260, R7 250, R7 230, and then the lower end will be R5. That seems confusing. So
yeah, they should probably just go with the 3-letter scheme and just leave it at that.
Yeah.
But
I wonder what the reason for that.
So they're saying that the R9 290X will have 512-bit memory interface. The previous cards were 384-bit, so it's a little bit wider.
Also,
4 gigs of GDDR5 memory, 649 US, 28 nanometer, just like the last round. I mean, it's new silicon, but it is based on the current existing process. So we'll see. I'm really curious to get this card in and to see what it can do.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. I'm hoping thermals are there. So
yeah, the thermals are going to be a killer on those guys. So
drivers, good drivers would help, but they really does seem like they've got an advantage now with all the game developers on console.
Oh, so the last couple things are there's 2 more things, and this is something that you might have heard since this is hopefully announced already. I'm going to leave some space here just in case, though.
Well, we're not going to. They're going to announce it this week, right?
I'm assuming so. Yeah. All right. So there's 2 things that they're talking about also that are brand new, and then and only one of them is actually pretty exciting. So the one that's not that interesting, I mean, this is for iFinity people. They're saying that they've basically made connecting iFinity much easier now in these new GPUs. You can basically plug in anything you want on the back of the card. It'll just work. They figured that out. Before you had to use a display port, I believe, for the third monitor. It was really, really finicky. So that'll benefit a small percentage of people. The biggest deal, though, and this is something that no one's talked about until now. Well, now that you've heard, anyways. So they do have a brand new audio processing engine that's built into the die of these new cards called True Audio. So they're saying that basically it will allow game developers to basically program all these sound effects when they're making the games to sort of take advantage of the fact that the card can also do this audio processing for you.
Yeah.
So that it'll number one benefit is that it'll let the game designers let the actual programmers of certain games customize the audio specifically for the purpose of, I guess, just making the game more immersive, rather than saying, well, we'll just use some sort of off the shelf type sound effects or something like that. That was how AMD explained it to me. And then that will also, since it's being offloaded to this GPU, it'll also free up some of your CPU cycles. But I mean, honestly, has that really been a problem?
Yeah, that's all bogus. I mean, yeah, maybe in 1998 we need to move everything from the CPU to the hardware accelerated card, but those days.
Yeah.
And you play game now, your CPU is doing nothing. It's just thumb twiddling.
Your other cores are sitting there just literally just doing nothing at all. So, but so they're saying it sounds really, really good. Gordon was really excited about this technology.
Well, I have a lot of questions more than anything, but so how are they getting because I mean, the vast majority of gamers use headsets, and they all use USB headsets.
Right.
So how exactly are you processing the audio from your video card and then getting it out to your USB headset, which basically is decoded externally? You have no control of it once it's left the USB port. So I'm guessing they must be intercepting the direct sound stream, modifying it, pumping it out to your headset. But then my question is, like, what if you've got these headsets that have all the advanced, 3D, all the stereo, whatever stuff, filtering? Doesn't that you basically have somebody you're stomping on the grapes, and then they're stomping on the grapes some more? Is it really going to get better? So a lot of questions there. And then also the question is, so it sounds like they're saying we're going to do some kind of audio effects that you can apply in a game. So if I'm in a room, you get maybe this, I'm going to guess maybe occlusion or something, kind of like it hasn't really been done in a long time, or all kinds of different effects. So is there an API? And then obviously the big question is, are they doing this because they're integrating this into Xbox and PS4? So that's where they sort of get like, hey, by the way, since you're already integrating this, API and this audio engine into your Xbox title or PS4 title, why don't you go ahead and add it into your PC title too?
Right. That was no one really knows, because again, this is the day before the Hawaii announcement. But there were rumors that during the announcement they would announce this is the same GPU in Xbox and PS4, and then this blah 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 blah. From there it'll just keep going. So nobody knows that. We'll find out tomorrow, or we'll see. So
I don't think that's going to happen.
You don't think what's going to happen?
I think they're using an older generation of the GPU.
Huh?
For the consoles.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be using the Hawaii generation graphics in these consoles.
Well, I think
it might not be Hawaii. I mean, Hawaii's too big probably, but it'll probably be. I mean, it could be a derivative, and it could have that technology in it. That's
right.
all.
The audio core just gets moved into it, right? So
there's that, and then they also announced that they're the BF4 launch party, and so I can easily see a demo coming out of BF4 with this audio surround, all this stuff exploding everywhere, and whatnot, and the card will probably be bundled. I mean, there's a lot's going to be happening in the next couple of weeks with AMD, and Battlefield's coming out pretty soon.
Yep.
So, I mean, the consoles are launching pretty soon too. So, my theory regarding how NVIDIA is going to respond is that NVIDIA has this GTX Titan Ultra sitting waiting in the wings,
Yeah. Or a dual core Titan.
or a dual Titan,
dual
780 card, something. They have something, because when they launched the 770 and the 760. They made a really weird, like, I've been to these launches before. They usually just launch them and go, there you go, you're done. Enjoy it or whatever. They just kind of leave it. They just kind of cut it off and leave it open. They don't tell you. They don't. At the end at the last launch, they said that's all we have for the summer. Like, they made it very clear that was all they were going to do. Which is like, why would you even say that? NVIDIA.
Well, like, just could be a head fake,
Well, yeah. So you never can really tell what they're. But they made it a point to not only not only verbally tell us that, but in the reviewer's guide, it said also, this is our lineup for the summer. Right, so it's like, well, that leaves fall and winter wide open, which is where we are right now.
Right.
So, my theory is that. So this is my theory. Yeah. So they're going to be launching their brand new technology called Maxwell next year, which is still like 8 months away still. That technology on 20 nanometers not ready yet. So in the interim, since AMD is launching their brand new 28 nanometer, whatever you want to call it, GCN2. To combat that, they're going to basically relaunch a 780 dual card or a Titan Ultra, something that will basically allow them to maintain the crown of single fastest GPU, which is all they need to really tarnish AMD's halo, basically, enough.
Yeah, but they also have to have some compelling offerings that compete at the right prices too.
NVIDIA loves kicking sand in AMD's face.
Yeah, they both do it when they have the opportunity.
Yes.
AMD just hasn't had that opportunity lately.
Right.
Well, and it sounds like AMD's more concerned about winning on the price front, offering more performance for the price. So
if they can actually pull that off, more performance for the same price, and beat the GK110, that would be pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And even the most hardcore NVIDIA fanboy would have to admit that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, no, I mean that's what's awesome about competition, right? It'd be nice if AMD CPUs would compete a little more on the high end.
Yeah. So that's the Hawaii GPU stuff. We should have, by the time you hear this, I'm sure you'll have heard all about it. So hopefully we'll have some information, and we'll be getting a board in pretty soon, hopefully too. So with that, let's move on to SteamOS.
Yeah, this was just announced yesterday, and we're still relatively light in details, so this segment probably won't take too long. But Valve, they came out with a Linux version of their Steam software like a year and a half ago, and ever since they did that, people have been wondering, speculating if they're going to come out with a version of Linux itself that ran the Linux client. And sure enough, they announced SteamOS, which is their own Linux distribution, which is going to run the client just like out of the box, I guess. And so I guess there'll be native Linux games as before, and then also with the games that don't run natively in Linux, you can stream like the Windows version over your local network from a computer that's already running like the Windows version of Steam and has the game installed and is networked and ready to go. And you stream it to the Steam box out to the TV or your monitor or whatever, instead of like using Wine or some other emulator on the Steam box to run the Windows version of the game. So that's about all we know right now. We don't know what version of Linux they're deriving from. We assume that SteamOS is going to be free, since that's like the way it's usually done with a Linux operating system or Linux distro. There's no release date either. They just say coming soon, probably sometime next year, because there's the big banner at the top of the announcement page says big changes coming 2014. So
this is a real pickle for the people who hate Windows 8, because they're just like they have this burning fireball of passion for how much they hate Windows 8. So then they're like, Valve has an alternative. They're like, oh yeah, and then it's like, oh, it's Linux. So they're like, Linux.
There's currently 184 games that run natively in Linux on Steam, and at launch, Steam for Linux had 50 games on it. So they've added like another 150 games or so over the course of, I guess, a year. So it's going at a decent clip, but nowhere near the speed that the Windows platform is for.
It says in the announcement that the OS focuses on 4 features, and it says in-home streaming, family libraries, media streaming, and family sharing.
Right, you can share there the sharing feature that they announced a couple weeks back, where if you have people on your friends list, you can share your library of stuff with them like remotely. Like you could have your friend in Pittsburgh and you could be in Los Angeles.
Yeah, it sounds similar to like if you have a home computer, everyone has their own profile on the same computer. So when they log in, they see their games and stuff like that.
Yeah, and they also mentioned that SteamOS, they're collaborating with streaming video music services. They haven't mentioned who specifically, but we're assuming like Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Video on Demand, and probably like Pandora or Spotify or that sort of thing. But no specific details yet.
Yeah, they have 2 more announcements coming this week.
Yeah, one like 24 hours from now, and I guess another one 72 hours from now. Like they're going like every 2 days.
Yeah.
So this is more a competitor to the consoles than to the PC. It sounds like.
It seems to be a competitor to Windows as a gaming platform. Like they're
if you want to game in your living room,
right,
from the couch,
right.
We had this discussion at lunch today, which is like, why would you want to move from your desktop PC to the living room? And I guess the answer is, well, if you have more. I mean, this is God. Now we're not talking about mobile again per se, but we are moving away from the desktop once again into the goddamn living room.
Well, it gives you a huge display potentially. You can have like an 80-inch screen, and you can have your surround sound system all set up nicely, and you have the couch, which is comfortable, generally more comfortable than your average office chair.
But it is very dependent on the type of games you like to play, because they're not all conducive.
Well, I'm going to throw a wrench into this because obviously we're talking about consoles now. Now I'm going to talk about consoles and mobile, because there is this question. People are saying, why is Microsoft and Sony spending all this money on game consoles? Because those are going to be killed off by mobile devices, right?
I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, though, because
no, of course not.
We've seen from the sales.
Fucking analyst, I could be an analyst.
Yeah, we've seen the sales from GTA 5. They've made like $1 billion in 3 days, the first 3 days of selling that game. So Yeah, I don't think consoles are going away anytime soon. Not when they're making money like that. No other entertainment medium is making that kind of money.
At the same time, how many stories have you read where this will be the last generation of consoles? We'll probably never see another launch of consoles again.
Well, probably what we'll see is a continued convergence between the console and the PC underlying technology.
Radical transparency. Forgot about
No brand cups? No, but it does seem odd that they're chasing something that everybody says is dead, right? But why is the living room that valuable? Josh has a good point. Is it that valuable? Who really gives a damn about the living room?
Yeah, or that seems to be Valve's big thing right now is getting into the living room, taking the PC into the living room.
Yeah, what's funny is I thought it made a lot more sense, before the new consoles launched, right? Because at one point it's just like, man, this is a wide open arena because their consoles are just ancient pieces of crap, right?
Yeah.
We could have just pushed basically a PC running, and I've been saying it, big picture PC, damn, you got next generation console right there.
Yeah, the timing does not seem to be ideal. If they'd done this like a year or 2 years ago, I think it would have been better, but everybody seems to be looking at the PS4 and the Xbox One.
Right.
For the next few months.
They could have maybe had a foothold if they did it.
Yeah.
Although, is this going to be it sounds like it's a streaming thing, though, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, there are about 184 as of this podcast Linux games that'll run in Steam, but that's compared to over 2,000 games that run on Windows on Steam.
So you'd stream it from your gaming desktop in your office to
Yeah.
your TV device. It's
Right.
I don't know. I'm not really sold on. Of course, we don't know anything, so who knows?
It's what's funny is at least for me is on the one hand I'm like I support Valve. They've never really done me wrong before. I mean, not Half-Life 3 notwithstanding, their games are usually pretty solid and they're fucking awesome games. Valve seems to really know what they're doing. They're really really smart. Everyone loves them. They're great. Blah blah blah. And then suddenly this thing with Linux comes out and you're just like, what are you doing? It's like. I want to trust you that there's more to this than what I see, but I just can't see using Linux as a gaming OS.
Well, I will say I actually think it's a good idea because we need it out. We need it out. We don't really know where Microsoft is going, and if you're a pure diehard gamer, there's really a fear that Microsoft with Windows 9 and Windows 10, they're just like, you know what? That thing where you just like take this disk off your shelf or download off the internet, install it, that's gone. Everything will have to be installed through the Windows market, right? Because it's just the security is just it's not safe. So we need to control this. Everything will come. You know what? Where does Steam go?
And all your save games are stored like in the Microsoft cloud.
Right. All right. So where does that leave Steam? Multi-billion-dollar business, they've got to have an out. And honestly, starting to move to Linux now makes sense. I don't know if it's ready yet, but they need an alternative to Windows.
They've said, at least in the case of Left 4 Dead 2, that they're getting a lot better performance on Linux than they're getting on any other platform.
What?
In terms of frame rate. Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
Well, apparently there was some room for improvement that Linux just wasn't being tapped to its full potential.
Well, but I mean that doesn't. All that really says is, hey, look, we tuned it so you can get higher frame rates in Linux. You can get 300 frames a second in Linux. They only have Windows tuning until 280.
Well, the gap is actually surprisingly large.
What?
It's like
Left 4 Dead runs on my laptop, for God's sake. It runs on Haswell.
Oh yeah. Well, maybe not the best example, but there is a substantial, meaningful gap between the two, between Windows and Linux in that particular game. So they can optimize. It seems like they can optimize Linux to run these games really well.
Well, I'm sure they can, but the nice thing about Microsoft, one thing you have to say about Microsoft is just you have massive infrastructure. You've got all these development tools. DirectX is very, very mature. I mean, everybody knows the insides. And
Valve has very talented developers, and you can't necessarily translate their success to everybody else. But it is promising.
We're going to just jump over real quick. We have just a handful of reader questions before we get to Gordon's rant. I just got a couple here, just to kind of, just because we have a couple sitting here that seem like they're pretty decent. So I'm going to jump into those real quick. We just got a couple, and then we'll move right on. All right. Here's the first one. This is from Kieran Cooper. He says, hey, Max PC Podcast. I overclocked my AMD FX 8120 from 3.1 to 4.75 gigahertz on air. And then since then, I clocked it back down to 3.4. Unfortunately, I cannot lower my voltage back down to stock. It's stuck at 1.39 volts. Sorry, Kieran. Every time I try to lower the voltage, my computer crashes. When it reboots, the voltage remains at 1.39 voltage. I'm on a Gigabyte 990FX UD3, HT 6850, 8 gigs DDR3.
I try resetting the CMOS. That's what I do. Just reset the BIOS altogether. That should take care of it. And if it doesn't, then I don't know, because that's a weird problem.
Yeah, that's true. Usually, you think the if it crashed like that, it would kind of reset itself, but maybe it's not doing it for some reason. So to do that, you basically just remove that little coin cell battery at the bottom of your motherboard for 10 seconds or so.
Yeah, or just short. There could even be a reset button, or you just short the clear CMOS jumpers. I'm sorry, I wasn't listening, so
Voltage stuck at overclocked.
The 990FX UD3 is also a bit quirky when it comes to overclocking, so it could be the motherboard itself needed to be replaced. So,
hopefully that's not the problem. All right, and this is from they talked about this before. This is from Shivian. She said, or Siobhan.
Or Siobhan.
Okay, Siobhan is a girl's name, not a girl's name, not a guy. So yeah, I'm a chick. She says, my issue was not so much that you had this click article to share, which made you feel compelled to. This is the time when I talked about the Mac in the middle of Gordon's rant. She says, sorry you did not have him. Anyway, she's saying sorry. It's hard for me to read this, but she just says you broke his stream of consciousness, and then she says there's a rhythmic quality to his rants, and you took that away. So giving him extra time does not make up for it.
It's mesmerizing.
Yeah.
You broke the flow.
Yeah, I broke his flow.
Yeah, I agree.
So
bullshit just doesn't just stop and start.
And it doesn't grow on trees.
It has it flows out in a natural kind of rhythm.
A poetry. There's a poetry to it.
Yes.
Yeah. And you know what? I mean, speaking of that, that's kind of the perfect intro here. So let's just do it.
Wait, there's no other questions?
All right. That's the wrong one. I can't stop it either.
You can unplug it.
No, well, it's the wrong. He still has to play the right one.
All right, here we go.
Fucking music.
Can you not just rant if he doesn't play
And
the
now it's
intro?
time for Gordon Maung's Rant of the Week.
Christ. I mean, suddenly you get the Ewoks? What the hell is that? Fuck them. I am not giving another goddamn dollar to Ridley Scott or Blade Runner Industrial Complex.
Okay.
Yeah,
There's a thing in show business when they announce your name, if you come running out, you appear to be too eager. So you have to hang back just for 2 seconds. Let the crowd be like,
leave us at the edge of our seat.
That's what Gordon does.
All right, all right. The first one. Let me. I'm going to bring up this story that I saw in Forbes. I talked about this before. Actually, I haven't talked about it on the podcast before, but I read this story in Forbes about the death of the PC. Time to kiss your computer goodbye. Right. I'm going to read you the intro. It's with IBM preparing to furlough most of its U.S. hardware staff, computing traditionalists are reminded once again that the personal computer, as we know it, is on its deathbed. The question for most of us is whether to keep our PC on life support or pull the plug. Right?
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good, except for one thing. Fucking IBM doesn't even make fucking PCs anymore, right? I mean, they fucking sold the division to Lenovo years ago. Lenovo, they're doing fine, right?
Yeah, Lenovo actually became the #1 PC.
But I mean, just how could you just take IBM, they're getting rid of their hardware division, which, by the way, doesn't fucking make PCs anymore. How is that bad for the PC?
Right? At the top of the page, does it say Forbes staff or Forbes contributor?
Well, it's actually written by the president of Zoho, which, by the way,
this is one of their sponsors.
I hear that. I actually heard Xerox wasn't doing so hot either.
Oh yeah, Xerox. But I mean, Zoho.
This is bullshit.
Zoho does a web-based Office competitor to Google Docs, which is whatever. I don't even know what Google Docs is called anymore. I don't even know if they know what it is, right? But
this is advertisement.
Well, I mean, no, this is Forbes pushing having
they
a
have sponsored.
Really?
They paid to write that article.
It doesn't say sponsored, but I'm just saying though. Come on, man. I mean, this is I'm saying, look, iOS sales not doing so great, so obviously Android is doomed. What the fuck? How could those even be related? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't fucking make any sense. Yeah, it just says contributor. It doesn't say this is a sponsored post. But I mean, really, does he not know that IBM sold off the PC division?
Some of it's kind of marketing thing. You know how if you go into a coffee shop with a an Acer or a Dell or whatever, no one will give you a second look. They'll just be like, oh, some shitty notebook or whatever. They don't even and then they also would think, and then if you were to go up to them and be like, well, I'm actually writing a novel or whatever, they would be like, pfft. Like they're just you have to have a Mac if you're going to be creative and artistic.
Yeah.
And there's this marketing cachet, kind of lifestyle cachet or whatever. So part of that is having a PC like a tower at home is just not cool anymore.
No, I whatever, I agree that obviously a bunch of fuckheads think that, but you can't say IBM getting rid of its hardware division means bad for the PC. But they fucking don't make PCs anymore.
It's a logical fallacy.
I think Gordon needs a stress
Have you
ball.
emailed them at all, Gordon? Asked for a correction?
No, I mean, it's like they care. They just want, he clicked on it.
Well,
we don't care.
But if they're, that's Forbes. I would think Forbes would care.
Well,
But Forbes, they allow industry people to pay to put articles.
Yeah, that's why it says contributor at the top of the page. If it was Forbes staff, then
This is part of the new media. This is how media makes money now.
Oh, I see.
So we should get in on that.
They could pay us to have posted whatever sponsored. Yeah, we can. Actually, I think we do have that, but we don't. They don't get to write things like, well, obviously, IBM.
Well, you gotta get clicks. You gotta have some kind of catchy hook.
I just think it's bullshit. It's fucking bullshit. And
that's what happened on the last. I told you guys about how I came across that last episode of Computer Power User, and then the front cover said ADATA's new SSDs, taking us to new horizons or whatever, and I was like, oh, must be some pretty fast SSDs. Like that's it's on their cover, and this teaser line sounds pretty impressive. And then I flipped open, and it said advertisement. No, it said like sponsored story.
Advertorial.
It just said sponsored story, and it said SSD's new lineup of products and
that's crazy, man. By the way, this podcast brought to you by Intel. I'm making that up too because they're not bringing it to you by Intel.
Yeah.
Brought to you by Wrigley's.
There's that's a real fine line for journalists to be. I mean, podcasts are a gray area. I mean, like for the magazine, we don't. I'm interrupting. Go ahead. I don't want.
No, go ahead. I don't want to interrupt the fucking stream. Even after Siobhan told you that you basically shut the fuck up, you still gotta let me just try to. Back when on my day, we used to wear an onion on my belt.
I thought we were having a conversation this time. I think it was okay to.
It was his rant. I think we all interrupted.
Yeah, everybody did. Wait. So wait. Did you understand at Gamescom there was a new announcement? It's an incredible breakthrough. I'm here to break the news that the next gen PCs compatible with the previous games from the old generation of PCs.
Wow.
Right. So like the PC you get next year will play the games that came out last year. Isn't that incredible?
That's pretty hot.
Not bad.
Yeah. I mean, my point is, why don't people give the PC credit for that, right? It's like, we just take it for granted that, hey, you have a game that, is like 3 years old or 5 years old, and you're still loading that on your brand new Windows 8 computer, and you're playing it, right? These fucking consoles, PS4 and Xbox, are like, hey, fuck you. You have the old one? Forget it. Just buy it all over again. But no, people are like, oh, okay, that's not a problem. We don't mind.
Right.
If the fucking PC did that, Windows 9 is not compatible with Windows 8 games, people would fucking flip the fuck out, right?
That's what happened when Vista was launched.
Yeah, but, how long ago was that? I mean, that's like, hey, Vista, we're going to break the game. You can't play the games from 9 years ago. You can't play X-Wing Alliance.
And
my God!
Yeah, and people responded by not buying Vista.
Well, I know, but it's just like people flip the fuck out on the PC. They just take it for granted that everything works, that there's compatibility, right? But on consoles, if you get fucked every generation, it's like, it's like they expect to. They expect it. They just like, oh, you're not fucking us on this? I'm surprised, But no, the PS4, of course, is not compatible with PS3 games. What do you want? Shh.
Well, I mean, isn't that... Yeah. Well, I thought PS4 was compatible with some games.
No, PS4 is not compatible with previous games.
There are some hazy plans to make it compatible in the cloud. I'm not quite sure what that means.
Yeah, it makes sense from. I mean, you can see, from a business point of view, why they want everyone to move on.
Yes, I know, except their customers don't flip the fuck out. They don't go like, oh, shit, I'm not going to buy a new Xbox or PS4. They're not compatible with my library.
There's not really that much choice. I mean, unless you want to go with, people are just digging their feet in right now saying, fuck Microsoft. Like, I want to go with Sony. So if Sony goes, hey, here's a new policy. If they go, oh, I don't like that, then they have no fucking option.
No, I don't think that's it. I think the thing is, again, people they're just conditioned to it. They're like, oh, it's a new console. It's time for me to throw everything away. I've just been fucked. It's okay. I don't mind. But if it's a PC, they flip out. Oh my God. DirectX 9 doesn't work with DirectX 9.82 or something like that. And everything else works. But no, there's no credit for that.
Well, there's that thing with DirectX 11.2.
Well, it works. You just don't get whatever the shiny water effect or something, or flippy whatever rock thing. But I mean, it works. But no, it's taken for granted because everything works in the PC. Which, of course, that's not what people believe. It's like, oh, well, the PC, I got to work on it. I got to update drivers. Hey, the fucking shit works. You don't have to go buy a new fucking PC just to make the shit work. Give us credit for that.
Good point.
All right, Josh, time to interrupt.
No respect.
Bullshit flow.
Man, yesterday, so I woke up, right? No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, I have to leave.
Oh, she's good. Here's the Brando.
See, Gordon, you went too
Here's
far.
the Brando. She's pissed off. Throws off down
Leaving
there.
in protest.
Catherine's at her daily fill of podcast.
She's like, fuck you. I'm going out to buy Xbox right now.
No, she actually has legitimate things to do, unlike us.
Right, here's the last one. Same thing. Why we get no fucking respect, right?
Who, PC?
Yeah, we no fucking respect. Because everybody, the entire market, Wall Street's like, fuck you, PC, right? But here's the thing. So, you see that? You even sent me that link, right? It was like, hey, check this out. It's this device. It's a phone that you'll be able to, it's modular. You can swap out parts, right?
That was Mary sent you that link.
Well, Mary sent that, right? Because people are like, wow, that's kind of cool. I'm like, yeah, it'd be pretty awesome if we had this technology that I want to replace just one part of it, and I keep the rest of it and reuse it instead of throwing the whole fucking thing into landfill, right? It's amazing technology. If only someone would invent something like that where, like, I want to just upgrade the graphics, or maybe I need more storage. Maybe I could just upgrade that instead of throwing the whole fucking thing away, right?
He's referring to the Phone Blocks video that went viral.
Phone Blocks. It's this Phone Blocks. It's just like it's a smartphone that's like, it's upgradable. There's parts of people are like, oh, that's pretty awesome. You don't have to throw everything away. Hey, guess what? You can do that with the fucking PC, right? But no. But it's like, oh, that's just the PC. We don't fucking care about that. This phone is incredible. This technology nobody's ever had like this before. I'm glad somebody invented it. Yeah, it's called the fucking PC.
It's true. People don't see that. People don't see that as the quality the PC has, because most people don't know how to upgrade their PCs.
Right. They take us for fucking granted. Everything. That your games fucking work. You don't You don't have to buy a brand new fucking 2014 PC because the 2012 one doesn't. The games don't work with it. No, it just works. Right? You can upgrade the graphics. You can upgrade the CPU, the RAM, the storage, the case, the color, whatever you want to do. You can do all that shit.
Right.
There's all that next generation technology in that thing called the PC, but nobody fucking cares.
I guess because there's not. There's a number of reasons, but number one is there's not really anyone making the PC look cool, other than these little boutique builders that make awesome stuff.
Yeah,
But they're preaching to the choir, you know.
I think it's just because people are a bunch of fucking assholes, and they can't see it right in their fucking face. This thing called the fucking PC, right there.
Remember how we used to do that? You know what there needs to be is some sort of PC outreach, almost like a you know what I mean, like a nonprofit.
Going out there to
Yeah, we did that with the Dream Machine years ago, where you took them to those movie theaters and showing people. We were playing at the time. It was like Call of Duty with 7.1 surround sound on like a huge 21-inch monitor or whatever. It was big at the time. And to the average person, if you were to bring that, if you were just to grab someone off the street, march them up here and show him what Tomb Raider looked like on that 4K monitor, running at 50 FPS, whatever, people would shit themselves. It's pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah, the Windows PC with its enormous 150 million install base seems like a huge missed opportunity for to hit even higher potential. But
people in our society don't give a shit about what's actually useful or interesting. It's more about just what's cool and what your friends have and what's kind of like popular and all that stuff, you know?
Yeah, they're a bunch of fuckheads. Yeah,
Right.
pretty
So, I
much.
mean, the PC will always be around, but it's officially lost its, you know, its clout.
it's not cool anymore.
I don't know, but it could come back around where it's cool because it's not cool,
That's true.
right?
That's what Microsoft's hoping for with their phone, I think.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm not really.
I'm not sure if
I
Microsoft
don't know what
knows.
the fuck they're doing with the phone thing.
Yeah.
But wait. By the way, I am, because I'm a developer. People don't know this. In between writing scripts and working for Maximum PC, I am also a developer. I'm pretty close to releasing my app. It will be on Windows Phone, Android, and iOS because I want to have everybody. It lets you retweet other people's food photos, right? So if you haven't eaten at that high-end restaurant, you can just take somebody else's photo and fucking retweet it.
I have the name.
Huh?
The name for
Yeah.
it. The name for it is Regurgitweet.
Regurgitweet, because I'm a fuckhead because I'm posting a picture of my fucking food.
See, I take pictures of my food because I like to remember. I like.
Why?
Wait. I didn't finish my sentence. I like to take pictures of my food to note, you know, certain like good meals, but I don't fucking post them. I don't
Yeah.
post them.
You just look at them late at night
Is this
under
like
the
so you can
covers.
sue them or
I just
something?
like when if I actually go out and have a nice meal, I like to take a picture of it.
You're like, you know, I think it's like, oh damn, man.
Dude, you want to get your money's worth sometimes.
That was really bad in the toilet. What was that?
It
Yeah,
was-
that's
A lot
what
of
it
times-
was.
A lot of times these places have like they spend a lot of time on preparation stuff too. It's pretty cool to see
Yeah.
what they do. You know.
And you pay a lot of money for the meal. You're like, I didn't take a picture of this shit.
Why do people post fucking pictures of their goddamn food?
People are super narcissistic, and you know what's funny is narcissism is actually the result of low self-esteem.
People also like to share their lives with others. I don't know.
Well, it's not exactly sharing their life. They're more like, look at all the awesome shit that I'm doing.
Some
Isn't
people are
this
very
cool?
good at it. I mean,
It sounds like
Okay.
Tom must post pictures of his fucking food.
no, I'm just saying that it's not all bad. You know,
Why?
We're more than just hairless monkeys. You know.
If it's food, you're gonna eat it. You're gonna turn it into poo. Is that what they're saying? I don't get it.
Yeah, you get in real trouble if you actually if you post it later on when it's poo. You get in big trouble.
Yes, but when it's
Don't
food,
do
it's
that.
like, whoa, it's all right.
You're right.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
Well,
it's
th-
fucking
this-
crazy.
Just don't publish it on your official Twitter account. You have to use a secret account for the poop photos.
I don't get it.
Or so I've heard.
I don't understand it. And I saw somebody doing this. They're in the restaurant. They're like taking pictures of their food to post it somewhere. I mean, what the
Yeah.
fuck?
That's kind of Instagram's thing, I think.
What do people do when they see it? I mean, I have gotten it. I'm not gonna say who I got it from because I don't want to offend this person. But I was just like, what the fuck?
Well, you could take that attitude towards all social media if you wanted to, Gordon. I mean, you could pretty much say, "Oh, I'm feeling sick today." Okay, whatever. Who
Well,
cares? You know,
it's-
like, you know, pretty much the majority of people, the shit people post on social networks are pretty much just useless information.
But the food
But-
picture? I
Well,
mean, come on.
They're probably
Hey.
wondering the same thing about people taking pictures of their computers.
if you want, if I want to hear about someone, I'd probably rather see someone's what their food looks like than hear about their kid or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Nobody
know.
cares about your fucking kid.
I think the food thing is fucking insane. And you saying you wouldn't want to see a picture of somebody's nice PC? Come on.
No,
you
I'm
look,
not-
you get that photo, you're
I'm
like,
not saying
oh,
it's
look at
bad.
that wiring job.
I'm just saying that they're probably thinking the same thing about computer
That's
pictures.
ridiculous. Because one thing you're talking about incredible technology that lets you do everything on your PC. The other one is just fucking food.
I guess it's a matter of opinion.
Yeah, it's a matter of opinion.
Yeah, that's your opinion, man.
All right, you want to get in? You want to do? You know what I forgot to do is our editor picks. You want to do our editor picks real quick?
Sure. Do you want to go first?
I have my pick.
Sure.
All right, go ahead, Gordon.
Is it a hamburger
So this is
hit me in
this is
the
our
head?
editor's picks. We do something real quick each
Oh,
show.
that thing. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Give you guys something kind of cool and kind of cheap that is pretty awesome.
We should-
I am breaking out the
you're gonna
mod
have-
right.
You're gonna have to hold that really close to the camera.
Yeah, we have a photo of it on our Twitter feed.
Oh, we do?
Of course, by the time that this podcast is published, it'll be kind of difficult to dig up. But I guess we can repost it when we publish the podcast. So
it'll
they can see
be in the
photo.
show notes.
This is basically this is a gigantic rubber mat, anti-static mat. It comes with a leash for your wrist that you can also then.
Whoa, back up. So what is the name of this and where do you get it from?
I think Frozen CPU sells them.
It's called the mod
Mat mainboard.
Extreme.
Extreme. And the cool thing is, so it's a great big rubber mat that hopefully the rubber smell will go away, but it has Integrated ruler, both
have to
metric and standard, right?
Yeah, it's really, really, really cool and really big anti-static rubber mat you put on a surface to build a computer with.
Yeah,
You
like
can,
your workbench.
I like this, the fact that there's different versions. This one has the fan ruler. You can actually put the fan on there to figure out what size the fan is.
And
There's a fan thickness.
Your anti-static clip goes in here.
Yeah, so on the actual mat itself, it's full of data and information. So Gordon's actually trying to point out all the different information. It shows wiring pinouts. It shows socket types. I mean, it shows everything.
Which is really nice, and the cool thing, it has the connectors, like the main power connectors, and which one's ground, which one's positive, which is really handy because a lot of these power supplies now, in order to be cool, they're no longer color coded. All the cables are black, so you're like, which one's positive? If you can't remember, you can just refer to this mat. And it's meant so you can build your machine on here. You're not going to scratch things up, and also, of course, anti-static for those.
Yeah, whoever thought of this design is like really, really, like brilliant.
It's I have
really,
to say,
really well made. Really well made.
I don't quite understand what the socket ones are useful for. I suppose if you're putting a cooler on there or something, but I mean, it looks nice.
Well, I think what it could be, Gordon, is if you're a type of person who does does home PC repair for a lot of people, you have a lot of different you have a lot of different computers lined up in your workshop. You have to just go one to the next. You don't fucking know.
That's true. That's kind of handy. Although usually the sockets say on them what they are, but yes, that's true.
Yeah.
And then you have like the hard drive thing. I mean, that part they have a different version that actually has a bunch of motherboard gauges on them. That's pretty cool. But yeah, the ruler.
It's pretty slick, and there's also it comes with two static leashes. So one leash goes from your hand and clips into the board, and the other one goes from the from the mat itself to the ground or to wherever your grounding surface is. So it goes from you. It's really. I mean, everything, all the details are just awesome.
It's got a tubing size for water cooling stuff.
Cool.
So really nice. Although you've got to have a gigantic workbench to use this thing.
Yeah, you would need probably about 5 feet.
Yeah, it's pretty well. I mean,
it's wide.
Yeah, an uncluttered workbench.
It's about 2 feet, about probably 3 feet tall, maybe 2.5 feet tall.
Yeah, just the ruler in itself goes out to, looks like about 45.5 inches.
Yeah.
So it's pretty damn big.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, and that's from Frozen CPU. Go for it, Tom.
My pick is a game called State of Decay. It's a zombie survival game. Sort of simulates the position of trying to survive after the zombie apocalypse and gather resources and manage people. And there's all kinds of dynamic events that go on. And that's $20 early access on Steam. I guess the only downside is that it requires a controller for now. They haven't programmed it for a keyboard and mouse yet.
Is this an MMO or single player?
It's single player. It's open world kind of thing. They're saying that they hope if this one takes off that they will do like an MMO style zombie survival or survival horror type thing.
Yeah, I downloaded it earlier.
It has a full day-night cycle.
There was that there's that Amnesia game just came out. There was obviously Last of Us and other. I mean, there's been a whole shitload of these games lately.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, but the zombie thing never goes away. But these things are just harsh. You guys ever try any of these things? DayZ and WarZ, they are fucking. I tell you, man, you will not survive the zombie apocalypse.
They're pretty
you will,
rough.
You're not going to fucking make it.
State of Decay is a little easier in the actual combat respect.
Yeah, plus there's no other players. I mean, the other players are like 100 times more dangerous than the fucking zombies.
Yeah.
I had that happen to me in Borderlands 2. I finally decided to try Ultimate Vault Hunter mode, which is like the pinnacle of the game's difficulty. And like the enemies all regenerate health. Like
I have a hard enough time with the True Vault Hunter mode.
Yeah, well, I was thinking too, and as a true Vault Hunter level, like 61 with
Surely
all my
you can take
all
on
my legendary. I've got legendary rifles,
You're
and
fine.
I'm fucking I have all this armor and shit.
What could possibly go wrong?
I'm just trying to fight these just like the most generic possible characters ever in the very first encounter of the game, and they're killing me in like 2 seconds.
They're like, bend over, it's time now.
I'm like, this isn't fun. So I actually stopped playing that because I was so pissed. All right, my tip is so last week I mentioned, or last podcast I had a tip called Down for Everyone or Just Me. one of the readers wrote in on our website with a comment saying there's another website called, I think it's called Is It Down Right Now, which he said it was even better. So I checked it out, and it actually is pretty cool. So in addition to being able to type in a certain URL to see if it's down, it has a whole list of constantly pinged websites. Netflix, Facebook, Minecraft, YouTube, Dropbox,
And a comment section. That's actually useful.
Everyone, yeah. So you can just sit there and look at it, and it's always checking these. So right now it says Yahoo checked 4 minutes ago, Outlook checked 4 minutes ago, Dropbox, Facebook, Chase, Google Drive, Pandora, blah, 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 blah. All the big sites are all being checked. So that is pretty cool. So stoked about that. That's my sort of mini pick is that one. The second one I want to do is, isitdownrightnow.com. Second one I want to pick is I've been trying to fill my my Drobo at home, which is like it's actually a USB drive, but I've been trying to find the best drive for these enclosures. Right? People online are all going with these WD Reds.
Yeah.
Because they're just considered to be NAS drive, and I can't quite understand why one drive would be better for a NAS drive than another drive per se. It seems like marketing to me. So, anyways, I've done some looking and I've done some examining, and I'm actually kind of on the fence on this one. But let me just run this by you guys. So a Seagate 4 terabyte HDD, which is, by the way, they only have one hard drive now. They don't have any other models. They're just one hard drive.
Right.
It's called Seagate Desktop HDD. It's really clever. The 4 terabyte hard drive, their 64 meg cache model is $169.
Okay.
The 4 terabyte WD Black, $270.
Yeah. They've always charged a premium for the blacks, and it seems to scale up dramatically with capacity.
That's pretty fucking good, man. $170 for a 4 terabyte hard drive, but here's the rub: 4 terabyte, $170, right? Seagate 3 terabyte Barracuda, $120, which is really cheap for a 3 terabyte hard drive.
It is really cheap, but I mean, it's nice to just get one more terabyte in. It is
Right.
You're paying a lot more for it, but that's one less drive to put in your machine.
Right, and a 2 terabyte drive is about $95. So the jump from 2 to 3 is not that big, but from 3 to 4 it's still a bit. But anyways, my pick then is the Seagate 4 terabyte drive. We reviewed them last week, like maybe 2 issues ago, and I was like, I mean, what do you expect from a hard drive nowadays? You're not going to expect it to be fast.
Yeah.
I mean, this drive has got all the same specs as all the bigger drives, the same specs as WD Black, not quite as fast, but I mean, you're never going to notice. It's way cheaper, $100 cheaper. So I've been filling. My point is my point and my pick is I've been filling my drives with these Seagate 4 terabyte drives.
Yeah.
So,
Well, how much are the red drives?
So the red drive is $205. So
Yeah, that's pretty close, but-
$170 for 4 terabyte Seagate, $205 WD Red 4 terabyte, $270 WD Black 4 terabyte.
Well, but I got to imagine though the red drives, the WD drives. Of course, I have no idea because I haven't looked at them. But are they? They basically are. I would imagine they say, well, these drives are pretty much designed for NAS units, which are 24/7, right?
Yeah.
So are they doing something different with the firmware
I
or
don't
the
know.
bearings or something?
I mean, ultimately, it seems like you'd still be using SCSI for that instead of
no.
SATA.
No.
No.
I mean, I'm not in the
Not
enterprise
for
world. I
NAS.
could be wrong, but SCSI,
Yeah, you want to get to, that's
no.
those guys are all about capacity. I think these days.
Hmm.
Maybe SAS, maybe, but not.
Well,
SCSI? I mean,
and
can you even get SCSI drives anymore?
I mean, I guess I'm sure these organizations want to reduce their downtime, but all these, my NAS drive is being backed up, or my Drobo is backed up to another Drobo, so I have everything's always being redundant. You cannot.
Where's your backup of that?
Well, I mean, as long as I have one backup of the other one, because if you put all your shit into a Drobo and the Drobo itself fails, the hardware of the Drobo fails, you're completely fucked.
And we should add that he's doing this for legitimate purposes. He actually has tons and tons of photography that he does professionally.
That's what happened to me last time I had a Drobo. The fucking Drobo failed, and so
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get burned like this ever again.
Well, here's my question: how many drives? How much capacity does the thing have?
It holds 5 4 terabyte hard drives.
Yeah. So what are you running?
Right now, I don't have all the 4s yet. I think I've got 3 4s and 2 3s.
And it just shows up as a single volume.
Shows up as a single volume, but because of the RAID technology it uses, so you don't have all your you don't have all that striped across all the drives. So you get like, if you were to fill it with 20 terabytes, you probably get about 16 or whatever.
Yeah. I've had nothing but bad luck with NAS units. I think I've gone through 3 Linux-based NAS units, and then my Windows Home Server, which I ran for about 2.5 years. Finally, drives started failing, fans started failing. right now it's offline now because I have to rebuild it. But I'm kind of like, man, why don't I just put some 4 terabyte drives in my desktop drives or in my desktop, back everything up to that at the performance that like blows away any of the NAS or Windows Home units.
I would love to just back it all up to the cloud, quote unquote, but I mean you're talking about fucking 11 terabytes or whatever, and then like having local access to them is just not fast enough.
Yeah, and then having to upload 11 terabytes would take you like 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not really. Although it's interesting because Jimmy, remember he saw Google Fiber.
Yeah, Google Fiber. He was downloading at 893 megabit a second.
Yeah, they're basically hitting what. It's interesting. You got a comment from a reader who had it, and they're basically they're hitting the limits of the onboard gigabit. The Gig E on the motherboard. It's like, damn.
I mean, I can't even imagine how fast that would be. I cannot even imagine it.
I just can't imagine actually getting that kind of. I mean, that's something we won't see for like 15 years, probably.
That'd be like using DRAM as for like a storage device.
Yeah, just insane.
Where you just drag the file onto it and then it just appears there. It doesn't even like there's no transferring.
no in size and it doesn't matter at all.
There's no dialogue about file transfer. You're just like, whoa.
It's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Because I mean, at those speeds, the internet is basically your external hard drive.
I actually, I know we're off topic now, but I actually have cable at home, 26 down, 13 up cable at home, and I downgraded to DSL, and then I ran it for about 3 days and switched back. Couldn't do it.
You need the upload speed, that's why.
Yeah, the upload speeds were killing me. I was trying to upload like 800 megs of photos, and it would take like 45 minutes, an hour, something like that. So, not doable.
Yeah,
Plus, I'm also I could theoretically, my life would still go on if I could just. I mean, I would be able to do it, but I just mentally I was used to the other old speed because it's really hard to go back.
You have 13 up.
13 up.
Whew. How much does that cost?
It's about $80 a month.
Your neighbors must hate you, man. What the fuck? I can't watch my TV, or you can't I think that's isolated.
I'm not uploading stuff all the time.
It wouldn't affect the TV, but it would affect their
isolated.
internet.
Yeah, you probably killed all the bandwidth for like 4 square miles.
Yeah, but that's Comcast's problem.
No.
That's a problem that they created. Is what I mean.
Yeah, it'd be nice if there was some other difference. I mean, how often have all we've had to choose from for all these years has been cable and DSL. There's never been fiber. There's never been any other real alternative.
Yeah,
sucks.
And for some people, they can't even choose between those two.
I was looking at there was some article the other day about Seattle, and I was looking at Seattle, internet, and they were offering like 100 megabit for like $40 a month. That's 4 times what I get now for 1/4 of the money. Half the money.
You'd think that there would be a lot more competition here in the Silicon Valley area. Prices would be a lot more competitive, but the cable companies
in the valley, but
the problem is that the cable companies have a lock on all the fiber that they use. They're not required to sublet or sub-license to other competitors like the DSL companies get, because they're not regulated as a telecommunications platform.
Yeah, total bullshit. I guess that's about it. This brings us to the end of our podcast. Thanks so much for hanging in there, guys. Sorry we had that week in between where we didn't release a podcast. Or also, we have new interns right now, too, so we're trying to get these shows up as quickly as possible. But unlike before, when we had an intern here every day, our interns now come in every other day. And it's just like...
We were going to do it yesterday, but we had some scheduling problems.
Yeah, so there's been it's been difficult for us, and we apologize for the delays. We're not forgetting about it or returning to some sort of other schedule where we did it whenever. We're trying to get to it. We're just trying to adjust some changes here. So that's basically it. On behalf of Tom McNamara, Gordon Ung, and myself, Josh, thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.